I'm excited to read some books that you convinced me to read. In this video, I'm going to be reading 3 books that I don't know when I would have picked up if it was not for you all back in September, so it's been a little bit. I did a video where I went through all of the books on my physical TBR and let you vote on what I read. I decided I was going to read the book with the most comments and likes on the comments, and then I was going to pick 2 comments that inspired me to read the books. So the one that had the most votes by far, I just added up every single comment and every single like on any of the comments, and that was The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This is a historical mystery ghost story. I have read from Simone St. James with her more recent books and really enjoyed them, so I was excited to get this as a pick. So then I picked 2 other books based purely on comments that made me feel like I should read the book, and the first one is The Devil Takes You Home by Gabino Iglesias. The comment for this says, "It was my favorite horror book I read last year, and there's one particular chapter I think about constantly. If you know, you know." Which, like, immediately I was like, I need to know. And then the final book I have is The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. There were 3 comments with this that intrigued me. One says, "I really like this one. It is really weird, but a lot of people I read it with in my book club hated it." Which, intriguing. Another one that said a really weird book that they need to reread, and then another one that called it outstanding and said they wanted to reread as well, and that the book needs more attention. So I need to know. I need to know why everybody wanted me to read this, and I need to know the scene and how weird this one is. I have made it 100 pages into The Devil Takes You Home. I can't remember exactly the comment that made me pick this book. Something along the lines of like, this was one of my favorite books of the year, but there's this one scene, and like, that makes me very curious. Here's the thing. There's been a thing that happened already, and I was like, is this it? Because I was not expecting that. So maybe that was that. Maybe there's more things. So, like, I'm very intrigued. So in this, we are following Mario, who at the very beginning, his young daughter is diagnosed with cancer, I believe, maybe leukemia, and him and his wife are running out of money. He loses his job because of it, because he has like no time off left, so they let him go, which, like, can you imagine? So he has no insurance, he has no job, and he ends up taking a job as a hitman, and he doesn't hate it. And then he ends up taking a final job hijacking a drug cartel's cash shipment before it reaches Mexico. So him and an old friend and this other guy are doing this job. It will give everybody involved about $200,000. So the 3 men are traveling from Texas across the border and back, and they all have like these hidden motives. There's also these like horror elements in here. I mean, all the stuff that's happening is horrific enough, but he's like seeing visions of things almost, and it's very interesting. There's like this guy who looks like his old neighbor but hasn't aged at all, and there's like some other things happening, like the one scene I was talking about. I was like, oh, okay. So far I am enjoying it, but it is feeling like 3.5 stars. I'm not typically a fan of books where like violence is the action in the plot. So a good example is Razorblade Tears. For me, it was just too much, and not in a way that I was like, oh, don't like violence, but it's just like almost not boring, but it just doesn't keep my attention like other forms of action does. But here's the thing, I don't really want an action heavy plot. Like, I want things to be going on, but I don't really generally want it to be like fighting and battling and stuff like that. I have the same opinions about movies and TV as well. So I am enjoying it. I am mostly interested in his like weird little possible visions, but I don't have any like really negative things to say. This book is just about 300 pages, so I'll probably talk to you again once I am another 100 pages in. Adam is about to get home, and we're gonna take Bowser on a walk. I don't know where he is. I don't want him to hear me. So I will be finishing this today because the audiobook is due at the library tonight. So I'll talk to you later today. Hi, Winston. Well, Winston's having a good time. I think I have cat hair on my face, or my hair. I don't even know. Winston. I am 200 pages into The Devil Takes You Home, and I'm enjoying this, but it's not a favorite for me. It's just not my favorite, like, okay, in the way that, like, I don't want to read about excessive violence, and not because like I truly don't know how to explain it. There are though some things that I think are like super interesting. There's like this weird like sort of magic that's happening, and then there's some like supernatural stuff, and it is very interesting. My thing is, I don't mind violence in a book, but I don't want the plot to be violence. Does that make sense? It feels like an action movie, and I don't watch those. So it's just personal preference. I think that if you liked Razorblade Tears, you could like this. I think if you liked Winter Counts, which I did like more than Razorblade Tears, you could like this. This is feeling like 3.5 stars. There are elements that I'm really liking, and then other elements that I'm like, I just don't want to read this. But I think it has a lot of good discussions in here, specifically with grief and race. I think those are done really well. I think the writing is good. It's just not my preferred style of like a horror thriller book. But there are certain things that I'm really enjoying still, so I am going to finish it. My audiobook is due very soon. So I have finished The Devil Takes You Home, and I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I think the writing in this was really good. It's just not my preferred plot. It is very action movie type of plot. I think it had some interesting elements in here, and I enjoyed the little like twist at the end. I think this had a lot of good discussions in here. Our main character was dealing with so much grief from losing people in his life in different ways in a very short time span. And I wish we got a little more of the supernatural type of things in here. We got more towards the end, but I just wanted even more from it. It was really interesting. The scene that is mentioned in the comment that got me to read this book, I think happened towards the beginning, like I talked about it earlier. It could have been something else, but that one didn't disturb me as much. So if you're watching this and you left that comment, please let me know which scene specifically you were referencing. You can message me on Instagram or whatever. But yeah, this was a fun one. This is one that I probably would not have picked up for a while if it was not for this video and this comment. I have found that a lot of horror that Book of the Month offers is not my preferred version of horror. There have been a couple that I really liked, but I don't know if I've given any 5 stars. Yeah, I'm looking and I don't think I've given any Book of the Month horror 5 stars. They tend to be either literary horror or like action-packed horror like this. And like I do like some action in books, but I don't want it to be like I don't know how to explain it. But anyway, 3.5 stars. I am glad that I read this. Thank you for the comment that led me to reading this. As soon as I saw that comment, I was like, I'm reading this one. You want to know what the best thing is? Cats. I deserve that scratch. Anyway, he's so mad at me. I have started The Broken Girls. I just got to chapter 13, which is page 125. This is my third from Simone St. James. My first was The Sundown Motel, which was the one that came out after this. And then my second one was, I believe, no, not her most recent, the one that came out last year, The Book of Cold Cases, and I really enjoyed both. I gave them like 4 and/or 5 stars. I cannot remember. And even though I do really enjoy them, they don't ever make my like favorites of the year list. So I've heard incredible things about this one. Obviously, everybody wanted me to read it, like so many people. And I'm not having the best time with it, but I'm not disliking it either. So we are following 2 timelines. They take place at the same location, but one is in Vermont in 1950 and the other one is in 2014. So in the past, we are following these girls at Idlewild Hall. It is a boarding school for like the troublemakers and the misfits and the kids who pretty much are misunderstood, but their parents don't want to deal with them. They lost their parents, just different situations. And there are rumors that the boarding school is haunted. So we are following 4 roommates and following their friendship, and then one of them mysteriously disappears. And then in 2014, we are following Fiona, and her older sister died like 30 years ago, I believe. 20 years ago, and her body was found dumped in the overgrown fields near the ruins of Idlewild Hall. And her sister's boyfriend was convicted, is in jail for this, but she was feeling like something about the situation was not right. And then she finds out that the boarding school is under construction. It is being turned into a school again. And then there's a shocking discovery that will link. Ow! Ow! Why did you just bite me for no reason? Cats. Then there's a shocking discovery during the renovations that link the loss. Bite my leg. Link the loss of her sister to secrets that were meant to stay hidden in the past, and a voice that won't be silenced. So where I am so far, it's pretty much been the synopsis. Fiona is a journalist, so she was like going to investigate when this reveal happened. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you read the synopsis, which I actually did not do until this point. So like, I was not shocked by anything, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. And she is dating this cop who I guess is gonna help investigate some, and her dad was a journalist, so he's into investigating and stuff. And so far it's fine. I like the present day timeline more than the past, but I'm not really invested in that either. I don't know if it's because I don't really have any sort of connection to the characters or what, but I do think the story is a little too slow for my liking, and it's just like lacking the intrigue for some reason. And I think a lot of it is because in both timelines we kind of know information that I think if it was kept secret more, it would have led to a little more suspense for me. I like the concept, but there's just like something missing and I don't know what it is. I'm interested to see like what this big connection is that's talked about in the synopsis, but like neither of the stories individually are really grabbing my attention. What are you doing? Don't you chase her. So I have finished The Broken Girls. I was going to do a check-in around 2/3, but I just didn't really have anything to say to you. I think I'm gonna give this one 3 stars, maybe 3.5, but like I finished this last night and already forget a lot of things. I generally enjoyed the way this wrapped up, but I think the story was a little too slow for me. I'm not really sure if I even agree with the word slow because there were things happening the whole time. I don't feel like we were like dwelling on one thing for too long. This is my third from Simone St. James, which I talked about earlier. And I think that if I would have read this one first, I probably would have liked it a lot more. I feel like if I would have read it when it came out, I would have enjoyed it a lot. But for me and my reading preferences now, and comparing it to other things that I've read in general and from Simone St. James, I thought this was just fine. I'm still so surprised at the amount of people that wanted me to read this. Like, this was by far the most voted for. There were the most comments, there were the most likes on the comments. And I think that with the ending, there were a lot of reveals that were fun. So reading this a couple years ago, I think it would have been a little more surprising for me. This was also just a little too historical for my personal reading preference, I think. There was just a lot in the past, and it was like in the 40s, 50s. And that time period influences things that happen, which makes sense, but there was just a little too much for me. So overall, 3 stars. I'm glad that I read this because I've had it for a really long time and I've been putting it off. But sadly, another one that's just not a favorite for me. So I have made it 22% into the library at Mount Char. This is the final book that I picked, and I can't do it anymore. I don't even know what to tell you what this book is about, so I'm going to read the synopsis. A missing god, a library with the secrets to the universe, a woman too busy to notice her heart slipping away. Carolyn's not so different from the other people around her. She likes guacamole and cigarettes and steak. She knows how to use a phone. Clothes are a bit tricky, but everyone says nice things about her outfit with a Christmas sweater over the gold bicycle shorts. After all, she was a normal American once herself. That was a long time ago, of course, before her parents died, before she and the others were taken by the man they call father. In the years since then, Carolyn hasn't had a chance to get out much. Instead, she and her adopted siblings have been raised according to father's ancient customs. They've studied the books in his library and learned some of the secrets of his power. And sometimes they've wondered if their cruel tutor might secretly be God. Now, father is missing, perhaps even dead, and his library stands unguarded. Whoever claims it will also inherit absolute power over life, death, and all of creation. As Carolyn gathers the tools she needs for the battle to come, fierce competitors for the prize align against her, all of them with powers that far exceed her own. Carolyn has accounted for this, and Carolyn has a plan. The only trouble is that in the war to make a new god, she's forgotten to protect the things that make her human. And then it says, populated by an unforgettable cast of characters and propelled by a plot that will shock you again and again. It is all at once horrifying and hilarious, mind-blowingly alien and heartbreakingly human, sweepingly visionary and nail-bitingly thrilling, and signals the arrival of a major new voice in fantasy. I didn't like the writing. That is the reason that I am not continuing this. The style that it is written in just really was not working for me. Everything is weird. You don't really know what's going on. I was not feeling this connection to the characters, even though we're supposed to, and a lot of people do. I think the plot was interesting enough, even though we didn't really know what was going on. That didn't bother me. It feels very cult-like with like the father and all of this stuff. There's magical beings, there's weird situations, there's like some gore and like violence in here, but like I was finding it really boring, and I think that really is just because I wasn't vibing with the way it was written. It is in third person, which I don't tend to love, and I don't know. I think that if this was shorter, I probably would have pushed through to find out what happened at the end, but because it's so long and because I was putting it down and then I would read like a page at a time and then put it down because I would rather be doing something else, and then I would come back to it and keep having that same experience. I was like, I cannot push myself to do this. I am slightly considering trying this again in the future, which I don't normally say because like sometimes my feelings on different writing styles can change and all this stuff, but for right now, I just did not really like it. Maybe one day, with the amount of people that have read this, it has a really high rating. I think it's like 4.05 or something, which isn't super high, but like for a fantasy horror book, I feel like is pretty high. But this one did not work for me, really, which means that nothing in this video really did. I mean, I had some decent books. I gave The Devil Takes You Home 3.5 stars, and then The Broken Girls 3 stars, and then I DNF'd this one. So like I didn't have any major wins. I thought I would love some of these, but you know, that's okay. I really appreciate all of the recommendations, the comments that everybody left on that video, and the fact that people care enough to see me read specific books to leave comments on videos like that. So this was an interesting experiment. If you have read any of these books, I'd love to know your thoughts on them, as always. If you made it to the end and want to leave me an emoji to say you were here, you can leave me a house for the library at Mount Char. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming content. If you're looking to find me in other places on the internet, everything is linked in the description, including my Bookstagram, my Storygraph, and my Patreon. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope to see you in my next one. Bye!